Hello, spiritual seekers. This video is more personal than normal. I awoke in a bit of a funk this morning, and for some reason I just could not shake it. Something was wrong. I felt irritated and unfocused, which made me even more annoyed. I was scheduled to interview Jack about psychic predictions. But when it came time to leave the house, I kept obsessing over the questions I had prepared. None of them seemed right. But rather than postpone today's interview, I decided to use it to my advantage. I had been fascinated by precognition for a long time, reading all that I could on the subject, especially the inspiring role it can play in providing for our well-being. I wanted to be uplifted. I imagined how amazing it would be to have something exciting to look forward to. So I decided today I would ask about psychic predictions and get a few of my own. Whenever I feel uneasy, I find myself wishing I knew the future, even though whatever I'm going through at that moment also has me ruminating on my past, almost simultaneously. It is as if I'm trying to imagine tomorrow will take away the struggle I'm feeling due to yesterday. I can never relax. For me, happiness always seems like something I have to hunt for. I daydream a psychic will give me hope I am destined for something wonderful. But what? Why am I never at peace in the present moment? I had to snap out of my mood. Maybe I just needed more coffee. But while trying to collect myself for the drive to work, I felt all my optimism for psychic predictions dissolving into a dark cloud. Again, my interview questions plagued me. My stomach sank. Perhaps I should go back to bed after all. Do I really want to know what will happen next month? Next year? The content of this video is drawn from an hours-long conversation with Jack Rourke, best-selling author of The Rational Psychic. Jack has predicted international events live on NBC television and for the Associated Press. In private appointments, Jack uses a unique predictive methodology he calls clairvoyant foresight to predict medical information and provide empowering personal guidance. Fact-based intuitive information he has used to counsel thousands of clients worldwide, including known pop stars, politicians, self-help authors and gurus, professional and Olympic athletes, medical doctors and more. Jack is a genuine extrasensory expert. Let me start off by saying, if I am honest, I have no idea why I think about the future so much. I wonder, are predictions even real? And is there any value in knowing the future? Just preparing for this interview triggered me. So I sat down with Jack, feeling uneasy, and what I learned was unexpected. To begin with, why do we worry about the future? According to Jack, it is normal to feel some stress when facing uncertainty. Worrying about what might happen in the future naturally motivates us to prepare for what could occur next. From an evolutionary standpoint, awareness of an impending future provides an innate opportunity to adapt and survive, or even thrive. But if being conscious of the flow of time is a net positive, why do I fear? Today is never enough. The slightest stress, and I'm consumed with paralyzing self-concern for tomorrow, unable to make decisions. For me, the awareness of an impending future, what Jack described as a survival advantage, has always felt more like a dreadful foreboding. Full disclosure, I've used divination to manage these feelings my entire adult life. I love psychic readings. I walk away feeling so much more peaceful when my life otherwise feels chaotic. Even though predictions are not always on target, I know they're still helpful. Needless to say, I am a believer. So, after reassuring Jack I had no doubt about psychics, I decided to dig into what I was sure would be an exhilarating conversation into the wonders of precognition. Jack, what do you think is most powerful about psychic predictions? Jack shifted in his seat and paused thoughtfully before answering directly. I don't view predictions as a kind of power. Right, well, maybe you could share a few of your biggest successes forecasting the future. That'd be a fun way to kick things off, I encouraged enthusiastically. I'm sorry. Talking about my work in terms of accomplishments makes me uncomfortable. It feels like taking credit for things that should remain private. Okay, I conceded. This made me curious. Then maybe you could start off by defining what a psychic prediction is. A psychic prediction is intuitive knowledge of a future event, known visually via clairvoyance or as a fragmented felt sense that describes a forthcoming circumstance. Do you consider predictions real? Yes. Precognition is very real, but offering them requires effort and great care for the recipient. In the hands of an unskilled practitioner, psychic predictions risk being self-aggrandizing for the psychic and potentially harmful to the client. How are they harmful to clients? Predictions can cause hurt, confusing expectations, and self-blame based on how a client thinks their life should be or could have been. Predictions can also be harmful because they inspire many people to lean back and become passive witnesses to their lives, as if life is something happening to them, rather than through them and for them. To make matters worse, unskilled psychics then direct the client's attention to the future, away from the present moment and the power of their decision-making. This is self-abandonment, which leads to insecure feelings of powerlessness and deeper yearning to know the future. Then, by directing attention into the future by giving predictions, unskilled psychics foster anxiety. How so? I wondered aloud. Because the number one cause of anxiety is dependence on the future. Oh my God, I said, bewildered. Jack, why are you the only one teaching this? Because most psychics only embrace philosophical ideas that explain their psychic identity while using what they surmise is extrasensory perception to support the beliefs that confirm their identity. Wait, I'm confused. Of course you are. Because unless a practitioner raises their standards, circular logic, quasi-religious myth, and 19th century pseudoscience are what underpin the psychic identity. What about client care? The average person who thinks they are psychic because they've had unusual sensory experiences thinks giving a prediction is client care. Well, they are correct, aren't they? No, they are not correct. Then what is client care when it comes to psychic predictions? Jack inhaled calmly before responding. Genuine client care is addressing and resolving the concern causing the need for the client to know the future. Oh, wow. That feels right. That makes sense. Is this what you teach your students? Yes. Understanding what a client's needs are and helping them engage with life divinely aligned while expressing themselves authentically is how psychic predictions become vehicles for empowered decision-making, personal transformation, and achievement. Why do other psychics not teach or practice this kind of client care? Because the nature of their work is only to demonstrate and espouse what they were taught. But only regurgitating old ideas stifles innovation. And without innovation, there is no wisdom acquired, and therefore nothing new to teach. The other fact of the matter is, most psychics do not study or train in client care. But why is that? There are two reasons why the average psychic is not focused on true client care. Number one, The average psychic allows the client to dictate how they are served during the appointment, despite the fact the client has no idea how ESP works or what their needs actually require. In such cases, the psychic is reactively striving to give the client what they want, rather than proactively identifying what the client's real needs are. But Jack, this is like going to a doctor, diagnosing yourself, and then telling the doctor how to treat you. Correct. Using your metaphor, the patient gains no benefit from the physician's training. Likewise, if a psychic bends to the uninformed will of a client chasing a mystical experience as a remedy, that individual gains no benefit from that psychic's unique expertise. The second reason many psychics are not focused on or skilled in providing real-world client care using extrasensory perception is they do not serve people. Wait, what do you mean? If I go to a psychic, I'm either on the phone or sitting right in front of them. How could they not serve people? Because they serve spirit. But that's a good thing, isn't it? I challenged. Is it? Jack asked rhetorically. Ask yourself, what is spirit? I admit, I hadn't considered what spirit was before. In fact, I struggled to explain it until Jack answered the question for me. Spirit, he said, is the belief system that supports your psychic's identity. Oh my goodness, it was all becoming clear to me now. Whether I liked it or not, Jack was right. Using a psychic reading to experience a belief system limits how deeply clients can be cared for. In his book, The Rational Psychic, Jack stressed the importance of discerning objectively verifiable, fact-based information. I now understood his high standards allow the psychic to use their abilities in beneficial ways that are tangible for the client, rather than providing a mystical escape from stress. A quick internet search revealed dozens of news articles describing psychics as the new alternative to psychotherapy. And, perhaps even more shocking, were the stories describing more and more therapists coming out as psychic. I began to understand the reasons Jack stresses client care and why his clients love him so much, including the many dozens of psychotherapists and psychiatrists who populate his calendar. Jack genuinely knows how to use extrasensory perception to truly help people. While Jack explained why psychic appointments structured as a helping service were very different than ordinary psychic readings, I reflected on the dozens of clairvoyants I met with in the past. Suddenly I had an incredible epiphany. It occurred to me that every appointment I had ever had with a psychic really had only conformed to and validated that psychic's belief system and by default their role as psychic. It became obvious to me now why all my experiences with predictions left me wanting more, and why, over the long term, I became progressively more dependent on prophecy. But even after all I learned, I still wasn't ready to surrender my love for predictions. I had to ask, can't regular psychic readings be helpful? Yes, Jack responded. But we're talking about the application of predictions as a value-adding strategy during client service. So I'll say this. Under the best circumstances, unless there is a focus on a client's need fulfillment, psychic readings are not transformational. At best, they're a form of metaphysical entertainment, a distraction that purges stress temporarily through an experience of awe. But that relief is only temporary. After normal psychic readings, little by little, people reaccumulate all their stress. Then in a month, 6 months or a year, they look back on their reading and think, that was amazing, but I don't remember why. Then they go searching for another psychic, medium, tarot artist or astrologer to make them feel how they want to feel all over again. I felt like I was blinded by the sun after removing dark glasses. I needed a moment to collect my thoughts. So, does this mean you don't give predictions? It means how I care for individuals is very specific. To be clear, every session I have ever conducted contains predictive material. But I offer precognitive information only using a method I call clairvoyant foresight. How's your way different? Foresight is like gathering up the circumstantial details surrounding your future concern. I illuminate that situation, expose the opportunity to make new decisions, and then provide you the information required to make those decisions in the way you feel is best for you. Everything I do is focused solely on my clients' needs. So you don't tell people whatever you see? No, never. Why not? Because without the proper context and guidance, clients react to future events even when they have not yet unfolded. This knocks them out of alignment. They stop listening and choosing how to respond using their inner guidance systems. Instead, they're in their head, either craving what was predicted or fearing it. They're no longer living life in the now. So you never tell people anything spontaneously? No. Well, okay, that's not entirely true. If I see something immediate that you need to know, I will tell you. I will have no choice but to tell you, because there is an intelligence that works through me and guides me, and it prioritizes information in accordance with your well-being. Otherwise, I only provide precognitive information within a clearly defined context and for a clearly defined value-adding purpose. If I am honest, I had no idea where to take this interview next. I had envisioned Jack sharing inspiring clairvoyant stories. I confess, I hoped he'd spontaneously see something exciting for me, or maybe even tell me I was a bit psychic too. Alas, my daydreams were dashed. As my fantasy for how our conversation would unfold melted away, Jack smiled kindly, innocently waiting for my next question. But I was busy picturing myself endlessly editing this audio until I gave up, like I had on so many other projects I abandoned when they did not play out as I hoped. "Are you hungry?" Jack asked. In no time at all, I was munching on toast and jam watching Jack scramble eggs on the stove. We then ate, chatted about his book, and nothing significant. It was lovely, really. I felt truly cared for, as if by my father or an elder brother, despite my being 20 years Jack's senior. Over breakfast, our conversation turned once again to psychic predictions and my fascination for them. Feeling more at home at that point, I confessed how I used them to mitigate my stress. Jack nodded. "There are exceptions, but that's pretty much what everyone uses predictions for, Franklin." I was surprised. "Really?" "Yes, to one degree or another. This is why it is up to the practitioner to manage the flow of information constructively." "What do you mean constructively?" Constructively means to ensure extrasensory information sits contextually on the proper timelines and is sourced accurately so the details can be integrated meaningfully. Jack sipped his tea. Otherwise, the client will interpret the prediction for themselves despite having no understanding for how to do so. "A prediction is either right or wrong, isn't it?" I asked. "No, it's not that simple. If a predicted event occurs on the left but everyone looks right, is the psychic wrong?" I had to think about that. Jack continued, "Where one directs attention matters. For example, are there things psychics have told you long ago that still bother you?" "Oh, absolutely." "Why do you think that is?" "Honestly, their depiction of my future upset me." "Exactly. Your hurt was due to your psychic not attuning to your needs. Instead, they just told you whatever they saw because that's what you wanted. And they paid no attention to how their predictions might impact you." "Yes, I see that now," I said sheepishly. client-focused psychic service would have protected you by providing for the unmet needs causing your need for a prediction. But what if I'm stressed and just want to know the future? Franklin, that's the self-harming impulse a good psychic must protect you from. But why? Because the future is not responsible for your feelings. As it turns out, my feelings toward the future are not really the problem. It is my relationship to my emotions I have a problem with. Through speaking with Jack, I discovered I don't process my emotions, thereby extracting from them the value-adding information they contain. Instead, I sense my emotions and immediately react. My attention is always directed outward. So, whether I am disappointed, sad, or even happy, my emotions never sink in. If I am disappointed, I get angry for things not being how I think they should be. If I feel sad, my mind concocts an injustice scenario resulting in blame that inspires self-pity or an aggressive attempt to force accountability. Even happiness triggers a reaction. I deflect it or use self-effacing humor to minimize guilt by avoiding joy because I fear positive attention. I always thought my reactions were me, my personality. But, Jack explained, my reactions were habits. If I really were all the ways I reacted, I would not yearn for a different, more fulfilled future self. When I thought about it, Jack was right. I do not accept my emotions as welcomed guests, therefore I do not listen and learn from my feelings what my actual needs are. Instead, when I encounter emotion, I act out, as if compelled to demonstrate that feeling or my opinion of it without allowing it inside me. What I discovered is this means part of myself always remains outside awareness, unable to actively contribute need-relevant information to my empowerment. No wonder I often feel incomplete. Over the next few moments, I slowly began feeling sorry for myself. Until suddenly, Jack's words lit up my mind like a lightning bolt in a dark sky. Bam! Wow, there it is. The rumination I suffer is not caused by discomfort with my current situation or fear of the future. My brain spins self-critically, not knowing what to focus on because it does not know what my real needs are. I never knew my indecisiveness, procrastination, fixation on the past, and craving for future knowledge were caused by something. I just thought this was me, my lot in life as it were. So where did all of my distracted ways of thinking come from? While Jack spoke about emotional dysregulation, spirituality, and the nervous system, I mentally time-traveled. I recalled my parents being hard-working people. They survived the war and instilled within my brother and I a get-on-with-it-no-matter-what attitude. I know they loved me, but emotional self-indulgence was not only frowned upon, it was ignored. May I ask, keeping in mind I've no doubt your parents loved you, Franklin, as a boy, did you feel your parents' love? As I sorted through childhood memories, the bigger picture became clearer. A good boy kept a stiff upper lip. On that, I'm certain I disappointed. My attention snapped back to the present. The truth is, Jack continued, you have always felt things deeply. You needed empathy, someone to feel and model your emotions for you, then demonstrate how to unpack and use them skillfully. Without receiving empathy, it is difficult to understand or use our feelings meaningfully. Nevertheless, I was a sensitive child, always vigilantly attuned to the unspoken needs of others. Yet in my house it felt like we were strangers. There was no thread of shared feeling connecting any of us. Nothing I did was ever enough. No one paid attention. Life at home was so confusing, and then, even to this day, whenever I'm stressed, my mantra is, I don't know what's going on. I was speed talking and I hadn't noticed I'd taken over the conversation. But I get it now. That part of me that tries to communicate what my needs are through my emotions really is me. Yes, Jack confirmed. It is the part of you that is always there, ready to love you, in all the ways your needs are unmet. This is your divine self. My divine self? The thought of such a thing made me uncomfortable. Jack, I said, I was raised to believe in God, or at least something, well, bigger than myself. I see, Jack said kindly. Did you go to Sunday school? Why, yes, I replied. Jack's next few words reminded me of a familiar Bible story, one my boyhood vicar explained as Jesus knocking on the door of my heart, but that Jack equated with divine guidance waiting for my attention, needing my permission to enter my life. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. I finished Jack's sentence. If anyone should hear my voice and open the door, then I will come in. Sunday school never mentioned opening to my feelings allowed divine guidance to enter, but this made sense. I began putting the pieces of the puzzle together. If I do not know what my real needs are, because I never learned to listen to my emotions, logic dictates I am like a ship at sea without a compass. When triggered or when feelings are too intense, I doubt myself and have no idea what I should do to solve whatever problem I perceive I'm facing. This is when I want to know the future, because my hope is the future will fix my life without requiring me to confront my fear or do anything. But if I do have a divine self, as Jack said, does this mean all my self-critical lack of focus and powerlessness are not the real me? The real me is waiting somewhere, trying to get my attention. If this were true, then who am I? What is this mindset I wake with every day, if not me? It is, Jack explained, your anxiety. But keep in mind your anxiety is a good thing, temporarily. Anxiety signals when you have disconnected from your authentic self as defined by your values. Anxiety is only a problem when you lose yourself in it, rather than unpacking its deeper meaning. Unexamined anxiety can negatively distort your self-concept and your worldview. Are you saying I have lived in a chronic state of anxiety for so long that I believe how I feel and the way I see the world are normal when they are inaccurate? Yes, Jack replied. You view life through a filter comprised of your past. You experience what Eastern traditions call Maya, suffering caused by belief in an illusory world that produces a false self you wrongly accept as you. I'm not sure I understand. Okay, let me explain it this way. Anxiety can be like forgetting you're wearing a virtual reality headset. Your reactions to the projections you see cause you to believe your personal experiences, and the simulated world you witness are facts. When what you perceive, your persona, and how you react to it and the world around you are not objectively real. But Jack, the way I see myself and the world feels pretty real to me. Of course it does, because you've known nothing different. But no matter how real your perspective feels, what you think and sense to be real are still illusions, because they are stress reactions to the outer world, rather than a creative expression of your divine self into the world. Jack's words rendered me speechless. My head was cloudy. I could not formulate another question. I sat silent for several long minutes waiting for clarity. I thought about my mum and dad, my upbringing, my ex-wife, and all the many mistakes I made in my life. Who I am today, including how unsafe I often felt, really was the result of thousands of choices guided by fear. It became clear I had allowed my emotionally unsafe childhood to live on in the present as an illusion of adult insecurity, simply because it was familiar. Then I realized something profound. Observing my memories was like admiring my 20-year-old self from afar. "Jack," I said with surprise and regret, "I used to be so funny and fearless. How did I forget who I am?" "You did nothing wrong. Everyone creates safety by recreating what is familiar. At some point, you distanced yourself from your emotions, similar to how you were ignored as a child to protect yourself. It's okay. Life is lived to remind us who we really are, and now you know." Jack's reassurance soothed me. But if I'm honest, I was feeling stuck. As a child, I dreamed of an amazing future, full of adventures and romance. I couldn't understand why now any change felt so threatening. I needed a psychic to tell me my future would be okay. For you, Franklin, anxiety is just a repeating sense of danger without knowing how to create safety. This is what your self-neglect feels like. But how could I have neglected myself? I'd been focused on protecting myself my entire life. Well, what I learned was protecting myself was self-neglect. Avoiding danger was really avoiding unwanted feelings. This was a continuation of how my parents failed to engage emotionally due to fear of feeling. It's so obvious now. As a child, I internalized fear of feeling by equating spontaneous emotion with danger. Because when I looked to my parents for confirmation of my emotional reality, they froze. Since emotions distressed Mum and Dad, I learned safety required denying my feelings, and that my emotions, and by default, me and my needs, were shameful. Now, as an adult, I still yearn for fulfillment. Yet I feel powerless to direct my will in self-affirming or self-pleasing ways without fear of catastrophe. My unhappiness has caused me to mistrust myself. For decades, I ignored my sadness and my desire for happiness, just like how my family emotionally ignored me. I had become my parents. I too have failed to use my emotions for their intended purpose, which is to decipher and then act upon what my real needs are. Consequently, I lived like the world was indifferent to me. Exactly how, as a boy, I felt emotionally powerless to connect with my aloof parents. I never expected Jack would reveal I am not a victim to life. I simply had never learned to listen to my inner guidance via my feelings. What Jack called self-attunement, my innate capacity to love myself in all the ways my parents could not provide. While Jack described the futility of struggling for outer connection without first attuning inward, he stressed my emotions are communications to me about when and if my needs are being met. They are not judgments about my character or my personal value. So, what I now understand is, without knowing my feelings act as my inner compass, my funk most days is the felt lived experience of scattered attention. I feel funky because without an emotional connection to my inner authentic personal and situational needs, my future does feel insecure. When not feeling secure in my person, I do not know what to do, who I should be, or how to acceptably express who I am in a way that promises safety for myself or with others. Learning I can give myself what I've always longed for was like a loving touch, waking me from a nightmare. Had I really spent my whole life believing in a powerless self that is not even real? In my funk, had I been searching for evidence something other than the divine within me holds the key to my transformation? I was overwhelmed. "Jack," I whispered, "will I be okay? It's been a long time since I've been in a relationship. Can you tell me if I will meet someone?" Jack tilted his head curiously to one side, smiled kindly, and stared at me for what felt like an eternity before gently speaking. "Franklin," he said, "I want you to notice how your discomfort compels your attention into the future. You are asking me for a prediction to facilitate escape from the present moment. But your life is always moving forward. Who's in the driver's seat while you take that mental vacation envisioning a future companion?" Oh my God, I thought, I'm doing it again, abandoning myself instead of just feeling confused. I was embarrassed. "Wait, but Jack," I reasoned, "I'm not envisioning a future partner. I'm asking you to tell me what you see." "I understand," Jack smiled warmly. "But let's remember, our conversations are not private appointments. They're interviews intended to help those listening. However, what might be helpful for you is to know this. If I were to lean in and adopt your frame of reference, the way you think the world works, and your limited place in it, I promise you would not like what I see." Jack continued by saying, "A spiritually motivated seer, someone focused on ending suffering, must never offer predictions using a misaligned client's frame of reference. Such a thing is harmful." Here, Jack paused, sat up straight, and punctuated his words authoritatively. "To act within the confines of a client's illusory self makes the unreal experientially real, which leads those who are already lost in the illusion of anxiety deeper into suffering. This being said, what is important to pay attention to is what inspired you to ask for a prediction." "I just thought a new relationship would be nice," I said timidly. "Or," Jack cautioned, "as a reaction to feeling overwhelmed, your mind instinctually applied an antidote to restore calm, which in this case was imagining a secure, nurturing romance you have not yet earned." I laughed out loud, then shifted uncomfortably in my seat, crossing my legs to protect myself. "Yes, I will own that," I said, still laughing. "So, in truth, what you are really asking from me is to confirm a stress-reducing concept within your mind, disguised as a prediction that right now you can focus on to feel good. Isn't this what psychics do all the time?" "Some do, I imagine," Jack conceded. "But that would only deepen your dependence on an imagined reality. One that compensates for how you mentally insulate yourself from difficult feelings. Emotions that, if attended to, would open you creatively to reality as it is and set you free." I slumped back in my chair and scratched my head. "I have a list of your accurate predictions," I said. "Things that either appeared in the news or were given to me by your clients. Why can't you tell me if I will get a bloody girlfriend?" Jack laughed while I spoke. He seemed tickled by my mock outrage. Then, while he dried his eyes, his tone turned serious again. "It's common to imagine another human will resolve the lack we feel inside, except we forget something important. While we expect a romantic partner to provide what we have not given to ourselves, they imagine we will do the same for them. Now you have two individuals, incapable of reciprocation, expecting the other will give what they don't have to offer. This is not love. What follows is transactional chaos. Likewise, I am not here to make you feel how you want to feel transactionally. My work is to set you free, to show you that through loving relationship with yourself, genuine love will blossom interpersonally from within. My breath left my body. I felt like I was floating. I hid my watery eyes in my list of questions, unable to see or speak, until the words fell from my lips unintentionally from somewhere deep within my soul. "Jack," I whispered, "how do I love myself?" Franklin, you love yourself by attuning to your internal needs and caring for yourself as if you are the precious divine being you are. Because we are spirits having human experiences, I said, rather pleased with myself I was catching on. Jack laughed infectiously. "Yes, something like that." I wondered aloud if I had said something funny. No, not at all. You bring up an important point that is confusing for so many on the spiritual path, the issue of outward versus inward focus. Being a spirit having human experiences is a common phrase. Unfortunately, metaphysical enthusiasts innocently misuse it to justify chasing all forms of mystical and paranormal sensations. Scooting forward in my chair, I eagerly inquired, "Can you give me an example?" Jack was glowing as if genuinely amused. What followed was a joyous sing-song list. "Well," he said, "there's speaking to the dead, ghost hunting, pursuing past lives, casting out demons, predictions, spirit guide communication, envisioning soulmates, trance channeling. I think I understand." "Do you?" Jack challenged playfully. "No, probably not," I admitted. "What you listed are things people go to psychics for. Are these activities wrong?" I asked. "The deeper concern is not a matter of right or wrong," he replied. "The issue is misdirected attention, and if commercial psychic practices are authentically spiritual. You see, when you assume you are a spirit having a human experience, the common desire is an outward search for something metaphysical, literally something beyond the physical, so in relationship to it you can experience yourself as spirit. The problem here is paranormal encounters produce physical and emotional sensations, feelings that inspire mental interpretations, which yield belief systems that once invested in produce a false self-concept. This mystically inspired self-concept feels valid based on the experiences of misunderstood phenomena, but it blocks spiritual evolution because, paradoxically, attention is directed into mystical, magical sensations and away from your human life, which is your spiritual path. Hold on, Jack, I need to process this. You're telling me the quote, spiritual, end quote, things psychics do are not spiritual? Correct. The false self works for itself using any false self-affirming means, because the mission of the false self is to preserve its existence, even by convincing you it is spiritual. I was dumbstruck. So all the things that most psychics do, they are not spiritual? Jack was emphatic. No, most psychics only provide building material for the false self and its vision of reality. Why, I wondered? Because they reside within their false self, directing attention outward to confirm their identity while using extrasensory perception to serve the illusion of who their client wrongly thinks themselves to be. So you do not use your spiritual gifts like a normal psychic? I will answer you this way. The outcomes I strive for are unique, therefore the way I do things is different. Jack, help me understand, please. I'm not sure I follow. Jack's breathing softened. His body relaxed, and yet what he shared next was spoke with eloquent precision. We are divine beings, lost in an illusion of petty mortality that inspires suffering. Once you truly understand this, it is realized that everything, what all people ask for, is a way out. Perhaps a client believes the way out is career advice or relational insight or help with a health problem. But every concern is illusory, not as an experience for those inside of it, but as objective phenomena without permanence. When this view is your lived reality as a spiritual practitioner, you see there is only ever one obstacle: addiction to illusion. The illusion is the outer world. It either compels our feelings or we think it is withholding. This means no matter the client dilemma, the solution is always the same: to assist inner alignment where their true power lies. As a tool, extrasensory perception is a powerful instrument for helping people listen for the knocking of their unmet needs and then supporting their opening the door to their divine self. But Jack, I read hundreds of your reviews preparing for this conversation. I even spoke to some of your clients. What they reported was miraculous. You have saved lives. At this, Jack waved his hand and insisted we stop recording. Okay, so the question was, do you use your spiritual gifts like other psychics? Let me put it this way. Extrasensory perception is a powerful skill, but one that only functions as a spiritual gift when given away in service to the evolution of another. What does that mean, evolution, I asked. Transformation. Entry to the inner kingdom by moving from the unreal to the real. What about seeing spirits and things? I thought this is what psychics did. I can confirm life is more than what's witnessed by the 5 physical senses. And while it is true, extrasensory perception does allow for the remote observation of facts, clairvoyance by itself is not spiritual. Clairvoyance is just a method of perception. It is what you do with it that matters. As for seeing spirits and things, this is nothing. Truly, nothing. Children see spirits. Novice psychics inflate the significance of spirits and themselves for seeing them, using visions of dead and otherworldly beings because they lack wisdom. Most paranormal perceptions are anthropomorphized patterns of mental and emotional information displayed on the mirror of the mind as a kind of memory or metaphor. Discerning the difference and acquiring the wisdom to use such information to relieve suffering must be developed. What about trance channelers? They are a wonderful source of spiritual wisdom, aren't they? I have not known that to be true. Attributing teaching to otherworldly beings inflates the practitioner's significance and potentially compromises their will, all while fostering fascination with other dimensions or encouraging the false self's vision for reality. Seeing my disappointment, Jack's tone softened. Please trust me. Everything you need to know about the eternal and creating your life abundantly can only be found by directing attention inward and aligning with what's beyond the mind and the illusions it projects, especially when those fictions present as spirits or interdimensional beings. But I love the magical feeling of connection I get from psychics and channelers. I want to believe existence is more than this, I said, gesturing outward with both hands. For the first time, I saw sadness in Jack's eyes. Franklin, you do not need a channeler who plays puppet to an off-world intelligence to reassure you. Life is more than what you see. When you live deeply in each moment, when you awaken to what you really are, you discover you are an interdimensional being blessed with physical existence. Forget about channelers. Look inward. Remember your upbringing. Seek ye first the kingdom within you, and all things shall be added unto you. All things could be your true nature, or a relationship, a career, or greater health and well-being. But I just want to be uplifted, I said incredulously. You seek entertainment. No, I want to know everything will be okay. Okay is just an opinion. You can change your opinion at any time. This is what it means to be creator of your experience. This is when I got irritated. I can't just change my mind, Jack. I want you to do it by giving me something to look forward to so I know it is real. You want me to change how you feel without your having to do anything? Yes, I said sheepishly. That is entertainment. Entertainment is something that changes how you feel without any active participation. Real life, like real spirituality, requires your participation. You cannot sit like a spectator waiting for life to show up as you want. This is why I observe future events and provide information to empower my clients' decision-making. What you decide an event means is what you experience. I sighed deeply. It was hard to admit this to myself, but if I'm truly honest, he was right. Every psychic and channeler I've ever been to presented information like a performance, like my life was already laid out and they could tell me about it. Did it help me? No. But it was fun. When psychics and channelers tell mysterious tales about themselves as if they have a secret, it fills me with awe. I love that. It gives me hope for no reason. Again, I searched Jack's face, trying to formulate a question. What about mediums who talk to the dead? Some amazing ones can talk to heaven. Jack inhaled deeply and smiled flatly. Mediumship outside a private therapeutic setting, in my view, makes the sacred profane. Historically, it is vaudeville, a sideshow that proselytizes for a belief system while aggrandizing the psychic as a performer. Because you were raised Christian, there is a teaching by Jesus on spiritual self-aggrandizement you might appreciate. It goes something like this. And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogue and on the street corners to be seen by men. I remember this verse whenever I see mediums selling tickets to public demonstrations or hear them humble bragging about the marvelous ways Spirit uses them. I was crestfallen. You don't believe in heaven? Jack laughed. His bright eyes burned with loving certainty. Do you think a channeler's words and 19th century sentimentality are heaven? No man can point and say, there it is, or heaven is over there, for the kingdom of heaven is within you. Jack's voice deepened. I promise. If you learn to know your mind, your emotions and your body, you can go beyond yourself. And what you find is heaven is closer to you than your breath, nearer than your hands and feet. Alfred Lord Tennyson, I interrupted. Correct, Jack laughed. I love that poem. Me too. Then, Franklin, wouldn't you prefer to live heaven now, by allowing the divine to flow through you into your experience as your life? What you said there, for the divine to live as my life, that sounds like St. Paul. Again, Jack smiled. My mind was blown. In one conversation, Jack taught me how I've accidentally used psychics to avoid inner peace and embolden my false self, my whole life. With his help, I finally felt free. Jack's clients warned me he was beyond psychic, but I misunderstood. I thought they were praising him and his astonishing psychic abilities. But no, that was not it. What the people I interviewed about Jack were really saying was, despite how incredible his gifts are, the help he provides is far more than that of a psychic. I chuckled to myself, and boy, was I right. None of my interview questions were any good. As I searched my list for what to ask next, my brain raced, unable to focus, until all of a sudden it happened. Something happened inside me, whatever it was. It clicked. The mental chaos ended. My body relaxed and my mind fell silent. As I slowly glanced up from my notes, my eyes locked with Jack's. It was as if I was seeing him for the first time. The depth behind his eyes was unnerving. I could not find myself in them. Yet his attention awakened a joy within me that felt uniquely my own. I had been meeting with Jack for months. How had I not really seen him until now? It was a beautiful, cool morning on what was sure to be an otherwise very hot California day. I had met Jack at 6 a.m., a little early for me, but now, after everything we had covered, I was really glad I had not gone back to bed. And although tethered by microphones, we decided to stroll to a nearby coffee shop for tea. It was such a lovely walk, one I hope to repeat as often as possible. My heart was full. I'd finally found my mentor, my spiritual teacher, and most importantly, the real me.